And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Phil Bertholl Jr., who had a near-death experience while he was in his workshop. And today we're going to learn about it. Phil, thank you for being my guest today and welcome.
Well, thanks. Thanks for the invite.
All right, if you don't mind, let's start on the day that it happened and go from there.
My event happened on 6/6/09, and I'd had some liver problems, and I have what they call had what they call an encephalopathy, which is where you basically switch your days and your nights. You sleep during the day and you work during the night. I was working late in my shop next to my house, and I was staying up, quite late, 3, 4, 5 in the morning, and then coming up, before my wife would get up to go to work, pretend like I'd been there, all this time. But I started to, I started really bother her. So she, finally put her foot down and said, okay, no more late nights at the shop. Be home by midnight. That's it. Be home by midnight. So one night I was down there in the shop and I was cleaning out my shop rags. I had a little bucket system going, washing, rinsing, and putting them in a bucket. And I'd hang them all around my shop on cords so I could, dry them. I'm cheap. And I was doing this for a while. I had a fairly good sized pile of rags, and I'd probably been over for maybe 40 minutes or something like that, washing in one bucket, going to the next. And when I got all done, I stood up to stretch my back, and I looked at my watch to see what time it was, to make sure I'd be home by midnight. And my clock said 11:43. But then all of a sudden I started getting these light tracers zipping through my eyes. They were just zipping, zip, 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 zip. And then I started feeling, tingly, faint. So I started making my way towards my office so I could sit down at my desk. And I guess I glanced off the door jamb. I careened off of a filing cabinet, knocked over a whole bunch of paperwork that was on there, knocked over my office chair. Apparently I drugged some tools with me on my way down to the concrete. But apparently what had happened is I'd blown the outside vein off my liver and I was bleeding out internally. So I crashed face first right onto the concrete. I never felt a thing. I think I was pulled before I actually hit the concrete. I'm not really sure. But I know I didn't feel a thing. Nothing was felt. The next thing I know, I think it felt like I was about 30 or 40 yards outside of my shop in some kind of dirt void, a black dirt void, no light, no nothing. The dirt was warm. It was full of love. Not like your normal kind of love. It had an all-knowing love in it. I laid there for a little bit, and it was strange. I couldn't tell how I was positioned. I couldn't tell whether I was sitting up or upside down or what. Nothing was getting into my nose or my ears or anything. My mouth, and I couldn't quite figure out, what the stuff that I was in was. I get, oh boy, I'm losing it. I got to a point to where I wanted to reach for my right arm, so I used my left arm to reach for my right arm, and that's where I never found it. It was just, there was nothing there to find. So that's when I pretty much figured out that I was dead. And this was some sort of a staging area or something. It wasn't the fact of that was it or anything like that. I mean, yeah, I thought about all that, but it was gone. Now it was just me in this dirt, this loving stuff. So I'm thinking, that I'd been in this dirt for a while. I even tried counting for for a while, 1001, 1002, 1003. I got up to 16 a couple of times. And when you run out of, two or three hands and you don't have nothing to, count fingers on, I just started losing track. But I figured I'd been in there a while. But then the next thing I know, I'm back in my shop, right through the wall, except this time I'm up by the ceiling. I could see 360 degrees. I could see everything. Everything in the shop was, it was very, very vivid to me. I could see the buckets. I was floating towards my office. I went around the door jamb. I could see the filing cabinet that was tipped over. All the paperwork and stuff that was on top of it was laying on the floor. I could look down on the floor and I could see the different colors, all vivid. I could see the names of the companies from the different colored invoices that they give you when you pick up your goods. Everything seemed so bright, very just so vivid. My eyes kind of moved around in the shop, and I could see me laying on the floor, and the tools that I had laying on the ground there next to me. I had, as I was looking at myself, I started to be drawn into the back of my head. It wasn't like being pulled or pushed. It was just like magnetics. It was like being pulled. It wasn't really fast or anything. It was just slowly being pulled. And when I got to the back of my head, all of a sudden, I heard these words that said, "Come off of the floor." And these huge hands raised under, really wide hands, raised underneath me, underneath my torso, and raised me to my knees. I mean, I could see, yeah. Before I got sucked into the back of my head, I could look down on and see myself, and I could see my glasses were broken, a pile of blood that was laying, from the side of my mouth. A tooth was laying there too. And then the voice said, "Come up of the floor," and I was just as easy as you please, just right up to my, right on my knees. I just raised right up. I stuck out my elbow so I could steady myself. I turned to my left to see who picked me up, and there was no one there. No one. So that's when I realized that I'd crapped my pants also. I guess when you go, you go. So then I began to think of how long I'd been out, how long I'd been on the floor. So I looked at my watch, and it was 2:07. I've been out of body for 2 hours and 18 minutes. So I get myself cleaned up and put on some shop coveralls, and I went up to I grabbed a walking stick or a piece of molding that I could use as a walking stick, and I walked on up to the house. Got myself cleaned up, took a shower, got cleaned up, put on some clean sweats. And my wife uses a CPAP machine, and so we use separate bedrooms a lot. And she had no idea what was going on in the shop. She had no idea of anything that happened. So I get all cleaned up, and I went and I laid down on my bed, and I think I got about 2 hours worth of sleep. Well, all of a sudden I wake up, and all of a sudden my mouth started flooding with water, like right before you get ready to hurl chunks. And I jumped off the bed, and I started heading towards the bathroom, and all of a sudden the light pressures came back, zip, 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 and I knew I was going to faint. So I sat down really quick in my recliner, and I yelled at my wife. I said, Polly, get up. I said, I'm going to get sick. I need a pot. bring me something to get sick in. So she jumps out of bed, not knowing anything's going on. Can't figure out, well, how come I can't stand up? And goes and gets a pot, gives it to me, and I get sick, and it's all blood. So then it's panic time. So we jumped into the car, and we headed off to Newport, which was 12 miles away. I figured it'd be faster than calling an ambulance. We just jumped in and just hauled. So I get up to Newport, and they threw me in the tube and gave me a CAT scan, and they found out that it was the vein exploded on the outside of my liver. But they didn't have a radiologist there that could do the job. They didn't have one in-house, so to speak. They would have to call one in. So they just loaded me up into an ambulance with a 6-pack of blood, a pack of serum, and a pack of platelets, and threw me in an ambulance and shot me off to a hospital that was 46 miles away in Corvallis. So I get over there, and the procedure to repair the stent is they go through your neck, and I mean, not repair the stent, repair the vein. They go through your jugular vein, they put the stent and everything, the camera, all the tools and all that stuff goes down, and you're laying on an operating table, or an x-ray table, and they're looking up at the screen, watching how this all going down with a trace type. Well, the doctor that was there at Corvallis, he was young, and he really wasn't, he was young, but I was a really hell of a case. I was pretty badly off. He tried 3 different times to get that stent to take, and he couldn't do it. So the head doctor, she came out and was talking to my mom and my wife Polly, and said that about all they could do for me right then was to just make me comfortable. That's it. Just make me comfortable. So while I'm hearing all this, she asked my wife how long I'd been drinking. And Polly said that I hadn't had a drink in 8 years. She says, oh. She says, well, what about smoking? And he said, well, he only smokes like 2 cigarettes a day, if that. She goes, oh my. And she went and ran back into her office. Now at this point, all of a sudden I'm covered in some kind of a blue tube, head to toe. It was about 1.5 inches thick at its thickest point, and about 1/2 inch thick at its thinnest point. It was mottled on the outside. It wasn't smooth. When the tube came over me, the doctor, when the tube first formed over me, the doctor went in and called the radiologist the gastroenterologist at OHSU, and he said, put him in the tube, see if he has any tumors on his liver, and if he doesn't, then put him on my roof. So it looked like I was going to get medevaced at the time. But when this tube formed over me, there were 4 souls inside. They were about the size of your fist. They all spoke to me at once. They all spoke to me telepathically. I could understand everything that everybody on the outside of the tube was saying. I could understand the doctors, the idle conversation between everybody that was going on. But the souls that were inside, they told me, they said, you can't go. You have to stay. You are protected and you are loved. And when they said the word love, this ring came out, like a clear ring. Just, it started growing. It looks like the ring of an atomic bomb blowing off on the desert, that round ring on the bottom that comes up really fast. It comes out really fast. Not the mushroom or the cloud or anything, but the ring. And it was coming at me in slow motion. And when it hit my face and my torso, that was the heaviest love I've ever felt in my life. I'd never felt anything like that before. It's not like you love your wife or you love your dog. I mean, this is like an even more than an all-knowing love. This was just amazing. Now I think I better have to tell you about my aunt. My aunt, hang on. My aunt was a clairvoyant psychic, and I guess she was pretty much that all her life. And she, excuse me, I found out about her skills when I was about 5 or 6 years old. She was in the front seat of the car. I was sitting behind Mom in the back seat, and Yvonne was stomping her feet on the floor of the car and putting her hands over her ears, saying, shut up, shut up, shut up. And what I didn't know was that what she was hearing was souls that were talking to her. She always had like 10 people talking to her all the time. I mean, all the time. And mom knew that it was, getting to her and bugging her, but I was still, it didn't make much difference to me back then when I was that small. So as time goes by, when Yvonne was over in Hawaii, she worked for she worked for 5-0. They used her as a psychic. Souls would come to her, explain where they were buried, where they were stashed, or where they were, she was a connection to this side of the world for their side of the world. And she would go tell she'd go tell 5-0 where these, describe these places, describe these things, or, rivers or this or that, or, waterfalls or something. And they'd go find the people and stuff like that. She was really pretty good. She worked on a cruise ship over there that went from island to island, and they had a room that would hold 60 people, and Yvonne would go in there and fill it every day. People would go to just go see her. She'd walk in and all the souls would be yelling at her and stuff, and she'd just start saying, okay, who's so-and-so and who is so-and-so, and bingo, she'd, read as many people as she could. And everybody just be crying her eyes out, and, she was quite good. She worked, she did the same type of stuff for the Vegas Police Department when she was living in Vegas. When she was in Vegas, she came up to Oregon to see Mom and me, and she knew that Mom had cancer. But the way Yvonne was, she never discussed anything that went on with the family. What she saw and what she interpreted and stuff like this stayed with her. She didn't want to change. It was like, I don't know, changing. She just didn't want to change things. She knew that I smoked pot. I'm a pothead. And she knew that I would eventually cure Mom's cancer with it. So after she stayed for a while, Yvonne leaves, goes back to Las Vegas. About a year and a half later, she dies. But unbeknownst to me, I didn't know that Yvonne gave up a physical incarnation to become my guardian angel. So that's how I pretty much get Yvonne with me all the time now. So back at the hospital, I'm in the blue tube, and they explain everything to me, and I see the shock ring. It looks like I was going to be medevac to OHSU. So I'm getting ready to go to OHSU. They have you have to get wheeled around to the outside of the hospital on a path to get up to the top of the roof. And we're going up there, and I'm just kind of looking around at things. We get up to the top. The helicopter was there already, and they load me into the helicopter, and the EMT that was in there was securing my little gurney thing into the floor of the helicopter. And when they position you in the helicopter, they position you kind of cockeyed a little bit. You're not quite straight in line. You're off tilted a little bit. So I get they're situating me in there, and the EMT he puts his hand, sticks his whole arm and everything through the blue tube, and he's tightening down a strap or something like that. And I think it's funny, and I'm laughing. And I could see the pilot in the front seat, and he had his helmet on, and he had his night vision goggles that were strapped on, and they were powered up and they were on. So when I'm laughing at the EMT, the pilot says, "Okay, let's hurry up." He says, "Kill the light, shut the door, let's kill the light." So the EMT gets me hooked up, shuts the door, kills the light, and the pilot swung right around, and he looked up at the light, and then he looked right straight down at me for about 4 seconds. And to this day, well, not to this day, but for like 9 years or so, I looked for that pilot at Life Flight every Saturday because they'd have barbecues, and I tried to find the one that had the log that picked me up, because it was awfully bright in that tube, and he had his night vision goggles on, and I just wondered how bright it was in that helicopter when he turned around, because he had no reason to look at me other than the fact it was brighter than hell in that tube for me. With the souls that were in there, it was bright. So anyway, we take off. We get up to OHSU. We land. And the EMT opens the door, and the tube floats off of me, out the door, and away it goes. And as they're situating me to get near the door, I look and I could see at their elevator on the roof that there were 2 orderlies running with a gurney toward me. And so I thought, wow, I'll be darned. They protected me just like they said they were going to. And that's where I lose consciousness. The next day I woke up, found out I'd been repaired by a very good radiologist. He went down the same jugular vein, went down in, saw how bad the outside vein was, pulled the camera back out, moved it back on into the inside vein to see how bad it was, and he saw how varicose that vein was. So he just ripped that one off and put a stent in that one, and then went around to the outside one and put a stent in that one and closed me up. He said that if he hadn't ripped off the inside one, he said I'd be back. So he said, "Hey, I did you a favor." And then I was in the hospital for 4 days, and it was weird, because I was still processing everything that was going on. I had relatives that were showing up, in-laws that were showing up. My mom was there, Polly was there. It was just really hard to discuss. They let me out, after 4 days, they let me out on the 10th, which was Polly's birthday. So they let me out on her birthday. So now on her birthday, this is what she thinks about all the time. So it was a pretty quiet ride home. I didn't talk about it much. Things, I just trying to sort everything through my mind. I got home and I couldn't do much except for like read. I really wasn't supposed to exert myself or do anything like that. I couldn't grunt, um, couldn't lift heavy objects, things like that. I was down for a while, but after after a bit, about a year and a half after my event, Mom gets diagnosed with cancer, and then we went to an oncologist and got it confirmed. But Mom didn't want to do chemotherapy because she knew it was poison, and my uncle had prostate cancer, so he said try the radiation because it's not like the way it was. It doesn't burn you up anymore. It's so much gentler. So she went and did that. And while I was down there with her, we looked at the CAT scan, and everything else, and you could see the tumor. Um, my mom had a hysterectomy 30 years prior, and the doctor didn't know if they were supposed to, back then during the surgeries, they didn't know if they were supposed to leave the cervix in or leave, or take the cervix out. Well, with Mom, they left hers in, and they also missed a piece. So 30 years later, it grows inside a lemon-sized tumor. So we get, we're looking at the CAT scan, and everybody could see the tumor. But what I saw was all of her lymph nodes through her chest and neck and everything else, and through her breasts were all lit up sugar white. It had already metastasized, and I was going to lose her in a year, easily. So I asked the doctor, I said, could I put her on RSO, Rick Simpson oil? And he said, sure, no problem. So he signed the paperwork for the state, and we sent it in, paid the fee, and 4.5 months later, I had Mom cured. So my wife had retired after that, and the gal that took her place at her work had lymphoma, and I was able to not actually see anything on her yet, but I could tell the puffiness in her skin and stuff, and I could feel it. It felt like it feels like air and deer fat. If you've ever been a hunter or whatever, or cattle fat, it feels like the air that's in the lard and stuff. That's what it feels like in here. So I got her fixed up. She was a relatively quick one. And one day, my wife and I were at a bar that we frequented, and one of the food servers there says, hey, Phil, he says, how's your mom? And I said, oh, fine. I says, I cured her. He says, oh, really? And I says, yeah, she's all done. And this other food server goes, really? I have ovarian cancer. So on we go. So we sat down and we chatted and stuff, and I told her what I could do for her. And with just her tip money, she was 6 weeks, I think 6.5 weeks, and I had her cured. And plus, she had ovarian cancer, and it killed the cancer. And plus, she got pregnant, and she had a kid. So now I'm the godfather. So that goes on. So after I cured Mom and a couple of people, Mom thought it was strange that I, could just pop into people and, and And plus also thought it was strange that I could just, cure them that easy, including herself. So I was getting ready to go to the store for her and me, and I stopped by before, and I head on up, and I'm in Fred Meyer's, and I'm looking at this lady, and this lady is walking towards me, and she's got this hard plastic mask on. It comes down both sides, under the chin, across the mouth, no mouth hole or no slit or no mouth hole. And it doesn't go behind the ears either. It just hangs. It just stuck there. And I'm looking at it, and I'm going, now what is this? So I figured it must have been like, she had her jaw wired, cosmetic surgery, a chin lift, or an implant, or something like this. It was just strange. So as time goes by, I make another trip to the store, except I see like 4 people with these masks on, and I'm thinking, now this is strange. This is not usual, and this is before COVID. And these are hard plastic masks. I wasn't quite sure what the hell was going on. After a bit in time, I started seeing more and more of the people with masks on. At one trip to the store, I could see 30 people, all women, no men, just all women. It got weird one day. I was walking, pushing my cart along, and a woman went by me. She had a mask on. She was in her late 80s, and she goes by me, and I just felt like I'd been hit with a brick. And so I just stopped, left my cart, and I chased her down, and I said, excuse me, I said, I got this weird premonition. I said, there's something medically wrong with you. I said, are you all right? And she said she was just diagnosed with breast cancer the day before. And I didn't know what to say. So I went on shopping, and then I'm loading, after I get, checked out, I'm outside and I'm loading my groceries into my rig. And I looked over next to a van, and there was a lady that was standing outside of a van, and she had a mask on too. And she was smoking a cigarette. So after I get my groceries put away, I stashed the cart, and I walked on over to her, and I said, I have a feeling there's something medically wrong with you. I said, are you okay? And she said that she'd just been diagnosed with lung cancer, and they were going to remove part of one lung next week. So I turned around and I just left. It was becoming obvious that all these people I was seeing with masks all had some form of cancer. And now I see them all the time. COVID has been nice. It hasn't been, I don't get to see so many. It covers up a good portion of the face. Some I've been able to see. I've seen a couple of men, but they've been really prominent cancers. You could see the mark on their face, the one spot, the guy where he had it on his head. I was actually able to see it, and with one gentleman, I was able to. I could smell it on his hands. It smells like ammonia to me. The women that have it, the men that have it, ammonia seems to come out. I don't know why, but I can smell it too. So now that I see all these people, I just try to cure as many as I can. I do cures with all the hidden cures the big pharma is hidden, and all the hidden cures that the government is hidden also. Everything I learned pretty much through Rick Simpson's websites. He tells you how to do it. He tells you how to make the RSO and everything else. cancertutor.com. If you want to do the MSM system with rosehip vitamin C, you can do that. I'm up to 16 patients right now, 14 cures, and looking at talking another one probably today. See if I can't work on her COPD for her. So it's an ongoing thing. And finding out about Yvonne, I used three different psychics, basically, all for different reasons. My best one, when I walked in through the door, she just looked at me and says, "Oh, I see you brought your guardian angel with you," and proceeded to call Yvonne by her nickname. So that was pretty overwhelming. Cried a lot during that session, but we got a lot of answers, a lot of questions answered. The second psychic I saw, I still didn't know for sure if I hadn't seen the one that greeted Yvonne right when I walked in the door. I saw this first psychic I saw. I explained, what I was looking for, and I asked her. I said, "So, do you know who my guardian angel is?" She goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, what's the name?" And she goes, "I don't know." And I thought, well, that's great, so I might as well just get up and leave. And she goes, "Well, who's the redhead?" And that would have been Yvonne. And so then she proceeded to tell me that I'd had this NDE that I just the one I had in 09. That wasn't my first one. I'd had 3 other prior. One in the two in the 70s. No, all 3 of them were in the 70s. One by heroin, and then 2 others by really good cocaine. But this is the only one that I remember. So that was eye-opening. But another psychic I ran into, she had hairy cell leukemia, and I went to a rock shop, a gem shop, and I was looking for a particular rock, and I could see the mask on her, and I asked her, and she said, "Yeah, I do have cancer." And I said, "Okay." I came around the counter and just sat down next to her in his chair, and she felt really comfortable, and I guess I felt really comfortable to her, and so we just traded all the information and stuff like that, and I started making up batches of RSO for her. But when she would do readings, she needed to have a clear head, so the RSO wasn't working for her. So I changed the RSO, and I changed it into CBD RSO, which doesn't have the THC in it, and it just has the beta caryophyllene and the beta myrcene in it, which are cancer killers, and that made it a lot easier for her, and she was able to do readings. So instead of having her pay me for the RSO or to repay for the pot that I used to make the RSO, I asked her if she would do some readings for me, and she said, "Yeah." So I had a list of questions that I had made up, and so since she was picking up Yvonne really well from a photograph that I brought in, and so this is what I asked Yvonne. I said, "How come I was in the dirt for so long?" She said, "That's how long it took her to convince the powers that be that I would change for the better and be a better person." I said, "Who picked me up off of the floor?" She said, "Saint Germain. She called on him to restart my life process because we were friends in the 1700s. I would attend all his lectures. We would hang out. We were buds.
Hmm.
I asked where the tube came from. She said when she heard the head doctor say there was nothing that she could do except make me comfortable, she called St. Michael to turn his sword into the blue tube of protection and place it over me. I asked who was in the blue tube with me. She said it was her, my dad's mother's husband, who was a spirit guide, Saint Germain, and Saint Michael. The psychic asked if I was pissed at God. I said, no, why? She said I'd been groomed to be an apostle, but I left heaven early. So I looked up apostle, and there's two types. One is one does all good godly things, and the other one is create grief and hardship. I guess I was being groomed to be the latter of the two, and I threw a fit. Guess I jumped out of my group circle into another group circle and into the first body I could find. This one. I've treated I've treated men, but only by running into women or family members are actually being able to see the cancer. I don't know why this is all being done. This all stems, I think, from hearing Mom to begin with and Yvonne. So I've discovered that some of my previous lives, some of my previous lives by other people that are more gifted, than me. I've been told that I've been an Asian boy blown up by a mine, an Asian woman with 3 children, a powdered wig judge, a Confederate officer with a saber, the 1700 acquaintance with Saint Germain. I was an Indian shaman that was buried up to his neck, and when the medium told me that, I immediately felt sun on my face, and I felt that I was facing south. None of the other ones hit me as hard as that one when she said that. And also, there was a reference to the time period of 647 AD or 674 AD. Can't remember which, but it was back in the time of Merlin. Saint Germain was incarnated as Merlin, and when Saint Germain ended his incarnation, I didn't take his place. I just took the alchemist's place. I didn't become Merlin. I just became the alchemist that Saint Germain left. I know that my aunt's helping me to see all of the. I know she helps me to see a lot of this. I know that I lived till. All of my psychics have said that I lived till my 90s. My best one said I lived till I'm 91. I'm 68 years old now. So I have a lot of time to trying to help people and a lot of time to tell people that there is life after death. I don't know how else to explain it, but it's the most fantastic thing you could ever experience. You will not believe how light you are. You don't weigh a thing. Speed, you move at the speed of thought. You're at the free will. I have a channeler who channels Saint Germain in the UK, and I asked her one time. I said, "Hey, since you're friends with Saint Germain," I said, "do you think you could ask him? I'd like to meet him, and possibly, maybe you could, let me talk to Yvonne too." And I said, "So maybe next time you're chatting with Saint Germain, maybe you can give me a good word." And when you're on Messenger and you're talking to someone on Messenger, and on the screen you see the column come down, and you see the little face come down when someone is reading it. As soon as I said, if you can help me, I'd appreciate it, all of a sudden, a page and a half, whole page and a half, goes zip, just like that, with the face coming down and ends like that. You can't talk that fast. You can't think that fast. You definitely can't type that fast. I started reading this and I was getting my butt chewed. You don't have a clue what you have in front of you. You don't have a clue. You're a babe in the woods. You've just been shown a small glimpse of light. How do you think you can, that we owe you this or that? You have nothing. And so I said to her, well, sorry for asking, I just thought I'd ask. And then all of a sudden, zip, another page and a half shows up with the face coming right down to it again. And it was her, and she says, Bill, that wasn't me. That was Saint Germain. I got my butt chewed by a saint. And basically, she said, you're not ready yet. So at another time I asked her, I said, I was listening to a different channel, and Saint Germain was saying that, or she was saying that Saint Germain was saying that full consciousness will come by the year 2025. And she said, no, it'll be before then. If not 2022, it'll be 2023. But we're going to make the big jump from 3D to 5D. And I don't think anybody is ready for all the love that's going to get unleashed and that's going to be hitting this world. I can't wait. I'm happy. I am very happy.
Phil, thank you for sharing your experiences with us. Do you feel that after your NDE, you became a medical intuitive or a medical miracle worker or something?
I've always liked science. My mom was a nurse. I used to go, she went to San Mateo County, there in California. And dad and her were separated. So rather than get a babysitter, she would take me to classes. And if the classes were boring, I'd go to sleep in the back of the class on her raincoat or a coat or something. And if it was doing labs and things like that, I was right up there at the tables and stuff with her. Science has always interested me. I experimented sometimes, with a lot of different things. I've done DMT. I've smoked that stuff, and it doesn't even come. There's no candle to an NDE when people say, "Oh yeah, it's DMT from your brain." It gets released, because you died. No, I don't think so. You smoke DMT, yes, but you haven't died. I'm telling you, once you die, you know the difference. It's a big difference.
How do you think you've changed after this experience?
180-degree turn. Exactly. 180-degree turn. I was more selfish, more I was so me, not so caring so much. I could been a prick real easy. Now it's just all love. All prejudices and stuff like that are gone. The love I feel for people is amazing. You have to love everybody. You don't have to love their behavior, but you have to love everybody. Otherwise, you keep coming back. So get this into your head. Love everybody. You don't have to love their behavior. If you don't like people, just do like Dolores Cannon says, write it down on a piece of paper and just tear it in half. show them that you're tearing up the contract of your life with them, and then move about on your own life and quit worrying about the ones that bothered you before.
Sounds like you've had an amazing experience. And what I think is interesting is that you are the first person that went from the black void back into a room where you saw your body.
Coming back from the void was something. I got 8-foot ceilings in the shop, and being right up there, I mean, and looking down, that was amazing. You feel like you have your eyes and your nose and your face and all that stuff and everything else, but you're just a spark. Yeah, it's strange to get into your head that, and when I came around the corner and saw the, I guess, quote, shell laying on the ground, that was amazing. The blood that was on the floor was all dried. When the hands lifted me up, my face was stuck to it, and it pulled my face, and it's just like getting ripped off, and I'm going, wow, what is this? And then, by that time I was looking to my left to see who would pick me up.
When you were on the other side, was it more real than being alive here? Like as if this is the dream and that was real life?
Going to the void, I knew I was dead. When I reached out and couldn't find my other arm, that was where I knew everything else was just all imagination. I was trying to find something, and no wonder nothing got into my eyes, ears, nose, mouth, or anything like that. All my orifices, I didn't have any orifices. All it was a speck of light, and I don't know what the dirt was. I explained to some people the dirt was like vermiculite potting soil, really light, fluffy stuff that's got the mica in it, because that's how light and fluffy it felt, and how easy it would move around. But it wasn't like anything was getting to your face or anything like that. It was a different. You knew the dead body was in the shop, but it didn't make any difference. You knew you were dead, and I knew I was in the void, and I knew it was some sort of a staging area. The dirt told me, I knew the dirt was from heaven. It told me that everything was okay and that I was going to be, looked after, and someone would eventually come and get me. The dirt just it didn't speak out loud, but there was an all understanding love. I mean, you just understood everything. You understood how everything worked. It was amazing, and it was just so happened chance. It was just like, I'll be darned.
After watching this podcast, people may want to reach out to you and ask you questions or chit chat with you. Are you open to that? And if so, how should they reach you?
I guess I could give them an email.
Whatever you like. Either that, or they can find you maybe on Facebook or something.
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. There's 2 NDE groups I'm in, and I'm in Sharon Milliman's group. I'm in Lightworkers group. Brigitta Visser, you know her?
Mm-mm.
She's in. I'll send it to you. I can't think of it. I'll send it to you on Messenger. But she's got her own place, and she sends out like a daily channel, or sometimes 2, from either the divine. She channels Saint Germain exclusively. She does Sanat, some of the others. She's Saint Germain. I really like him, and of course I can understand being from knowing him from the 1700s. But and the fact when the psychic said that we were friends, we had all I went to his lectures and we had the same friends. We were buds, and I'm going like, wow, this is too much. that his life has been so amazing. You know, he's been in on, you know, the signing of the Declaration of Independence and everything else, and as far as it goes on back down to Merlin, you know, I mean, this guy has been around, and he's got a sense of humor. He's fun. He's fast and very snappy too, but he's yeah, he's an all loving person. I like him. I've read 2 of his books. Forget It turned me on to the first one, and the second one I just got because I had to have to continue on the story. And there's like 6 or 7, 8 more to go. But on my meager little income, I have to wait till that, you know, goes, or until I find a windfall or something, you know.
All right, well, before we finish up, can you leave us with one last positive message?
I think the message I can leave is there is life after death. I don't know how else to explain it, but there is life after death. I didn't get to go to heaven. I didn't get to see all the animals and stuff that everybody else claimed they saw. I didn't even go up a tube. You know, I went to the dark black void. But for everything that's happened to me ever since I've been through that void, I know one thing for sure. There's life after death. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Phil, for that message, and thank you again for being my guest. I appreciate you, and I wish you a great rest of your day.
Cool. And I like the new haircut too.
Thanks. Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.